We may not always be able to until we've had the experience, because I believe that common memory is where empathy comes into play. If we don't have common memories, then we can't really come from a place of empathy. So that's why storytelling is so important for us at 6 Degrees, to talk about lived experiences and to share them in a really authentic way, centering the peoples whose stories they are, because then you can kind of peer in to that place and begin building a memory for yourself to build empathy.
Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to be here today with Stacy Huston. Stacy, welcome to What the Fundraising.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here with you, Mallory.
I'm so excited for this conversation and just so appreciate everything you do and how you show up in the world. Why don't you start just telling everybody a little bit about you and your work, and then we'll talk about some more personal sides of the work.
Yeah, same. It's really an honor to be here. So I'm Stacy Huston. I'm the executive director at 6degrees.org, which is a public 501c3 charity that was founded by actor, philanthropist, and musician Kevin Bacon. So we sit at the intersection of storytelling and philanthropy. And so our work is really focused on helping small grassroots organizations based domestically in the United States to reach a wider audience, because we know that community organizations are economic drivers in our communities, and they're also filling gaps that are really needed in terms of social and even environmental services. So we use our expertise around content creation, campaign development to help them to tell their stories so that more people see them, learn about them, are inspired by them, and eventually give them dollars and time and capacity and all of that wonderful stuff. So I have a very, very fun job, and I get to work with a wonderful team that are largely creative and inspired by change makers all around the country.
I'm so grateful for the work that you do. And I know when you and I started to connect a little bit more personally on LinkedIn, we were talking about the balance of that, of careers that we love, work that we love, and life behind the scenes, managing our little people and sort of balancing motherhood with all of that. So tell us a little bit about all the other pieces of your life other than running this incredible organization.
Yeah, it's so funny. I will say I grew up in California. I'm right outside of Washington, D.C. in Fairfax. And when I first moved here, I thought the most annoying thing in the whole world was, what do you do for a living? And I'm like, I had entire groups of friends that I did not know what they did for a living. Some were in entertainment, it was clear. But I had a friend who actually worked at a hula hoop company. And I swear the fact that I don't know what he actually did at that company still bothers me to this day. Like, why did I not ask any more questions than that? But I say that because when I first moved here, I really resisted talking about career first. And now it's so natural for me to kind of start there and then stop. But outside of my career, I am a wife and a mom of two really beautiful, spunky, opinionated, strong-willed little girls. I have a 5-year-old Abby and a 3-year-old Eloise, who are just like the joy of my entire life. I never actually thought I wanted to have children. And then my husband, and then we had one kid, and then COVID hit, and we were like, oh God, this kid needs a friend, or else we're going to have to play with them forever, like, so then we had another, so they could have a companion. And obviously she rounded out the Huston family, and it's been a great joy. But I'm really active here in this community, and really active member of my church, Grace Community Church, and really wonderful neighborhood with, just a lot of families that roll up their sleeves and help one another. I'm very lucky. I think that as soon as I kind of push back on some of the more professional parts of this area and really spent some time cultivating relationships that just took a lot longer, just because of the amount of busyness that is just so inherent with the Mid-Atlantic, but most specifically outside of the Washington, D.C. area. I found a really strong community, because once you're in and you're on the calendar, you're a lifer. So
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I'm in California and grew up here, but then spent
Yeah.
10 years on the East Coast and found my way back. But it's so interesting that piece around kind of what part of your life you lead with or talk about. Like when you were saying that, I'm like, I used to joke when I was running an organization in California, I still hired a lot of people from the East Coast because that was sort of my professional upbringing and probably my
Yeah.
style a little bit. And I used to joke that I wanted to create an app that would insert niceties into emails that they would send the California staff who were like, you haven't asked me how I am. You went
Yeah.
straight
Right.
to business. And it's so interesting, like that fusion. And I feel like it brings up this really interesting question of like, or expectation in certain situations of us like compartmentalizing those
Oh, yeah.
sides of ourselves and then being in other environments where that feels or like so unnatural to do so. And I feel like for me, it's always been really hard. You know, people say you talk about your kids a lot. And I'm like, yeah, like I'm with my kids a lot. I'm
Yeah.
just like,
Right.
like my life is
You're
being a
basically an
mom.
appendage. Like,
Yes, exactly. I mean, I do raise them and, you know, like, and with them every day when I'm home. And so it's like, but I feel like there are these like interesting like expectations around when we're supposed to be sort of like career purists and when we're supposed to be mom purists. And I personally have had such a hard time with either of those roles fully compartmentalized because it always feels like I'm trying to leave like a part of myself behind that feels unnatural. I'm just curious for you, like, especially having that kind of like cross country experience, like, how do
oh,
you
yeah.
navigate that?
Yeah. In some ways, I feel really lucky because I'm able to work remotely. And as executive director, if I can't do something on a certain day, I'm like, I have to do this. I have a great board, a great team. We do really want to create space for our staff to have a life and to be fulfilled and have some of that like balance, right? But at the same time, I do think it is really, really difficult, especially when you're leading an organization and you're a driven person, to know when to turn off the professional side. And I've had a lot of conversation with my husband about this. It's the pressure of being a mom and a wife and managing a house. And even with daycare, it's like, you're the first person they call. I'm like, call my husband. Like, he's available. He's there. I'm traveling more. I'm doing these things, but it's expectation that the mother is often the one that's going to be the first kind of line of defense. And then if you're not there, you don't show up for something, the looks, oh my gosh, like it's really a lot of like judgment in terms of you just doing your best and something maybe working differently for your family. But my daughters are quite vocal. I mean, when my now 5-year-old was 3, she was tested at her school and they're like, has language skills of a 5-year-old. I'm like, yeah, that tracks. And so she's really good about saying things like, Mommy, are you listening to the sound of my voice? If I'm distracted, or if she's home like she is today, she got sick last night. It's just, these things never happen when you have time for them to happen. It's always like the least convenient time. I'm like, oh no, I'm the parent that can be home with her today. And she just wants to cuddle. She just wants to spend time with me. And she's like, can I lay on your lap? And I'm like, oh, I have this presentation from this organization and I have this call and it'll be really hard to change and maneuver. There's 10 people on it. And so sometimes you just can't. Maybe it's that you won't, but you kind of look forward and you're like, there's just so many other things that would cascade if you had to make and adjust. And so I find that people in my life have to adjust as well. I think that this is something that I've learned, is to be really communicative about, this is how I'm prioritizing and this is where we can give and take. My closest friends, they know, like, I might not get to see you once a quarter. Like, I would love that. But sometimes it's, hey, I'm going to be at this winery on this weekend and like you're going to need, this is where we are and I want to spend time with you and have that kind of like intimate one-on-one and spend time with your kids. But like, I can't do that for everybody anymore and balance the things that are most critical, which is really my own children, my spouse, my work, because there are people that are depending on me even in my work, right? I think it's not like a normal 9 to 5 where you check in and you check out, right? Like, if you drop the ball, it can seriously impact other people's lives. And so I think that I have had to compartmentalize at times, but just become way more transparent about when I've hit my capacity in the extra stuff that I would love, but I always don't have time for.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. There's so much in
Sorry,
there
that
to
was a lot. That
unpack.
was all.
No, I mean, I resonate with everything that you were saying. I mean, even from the very beginning of like the glares I feel like I get when I'm on the phone picking up my kid from daycare and I'm waiting in the car until it's 5 o'clock so I can finish this last little call. And like all the moms are standing in front just glaring at me in the car. And then the people I'm talking to on the other line are like, you're always picking up your kids. And I'm like,
I have children, like they need picked up.
Like you always send me voice memos when you're picking up your kids. And I'm like, yeah, because that's like literally that drive or the 10 minutes that I'm not on calls during the day. And then I'm going to pick up my children where somebody's mad at me on that end about how I'm doing that side of it. And you don't like it on this end, how I'm doing this side of it. And sometimes it can feel like this, like in some ways in many ways, I feel incredibly grateful also that my girls get to see their mom love what she does and like make change. And, I always say to them, like, my job is to help create the world I want for you. And sometimes that's directly with you. And sometimes that's my work. Like sometimes my work, it's still for you. It doesn't feel like it to a 5-year-old, but it
they're
really
like, whatever.
Like, they're like, please just color, mom.
Yeah, exactly. Seriously.
But like trying to keep like my eye on that like prize in addition to like really loving it and finding it super fulfilling and knowing that that's something that's really good for me. But yeah, I think, another thing I'm like hearing in what you're saying, maybe that has been true for me, I've had to renegotiate a lot of adult relationships in my life. And some of them I've been able to, and some of them I haven't been able to. And I feel like I spent a lot of time like pretzel twisting myself to try to make everybody happy. And then got to a moment where I was like, yeah, I can't do life like this. Like this is what's going to be the end of me.
Yeah, especially during COVID, there's a shift. We went from, this is pre-kids, and we had just had our daughter. She was like 3 months when COVID hit. And so I was part of these different social clubs, moderating a lot of panel discussions, networking 3 to 4 times a week. It was a lot. And when we felt things starting to open up again, we were like, what do we want to keep from this time? And what do we want to kind of revert back to? And one of the things that we were really good at for a long time was that we were going to do one thing a weekend. And it's like church is always baked in, that's like included. But we're like, if it's a birthday party, it's one birthday party. If it's our friends wanting to meet at a winery, like that's what we're doing. If it's someone's a dinner, like that's what we're doing. But I had a lot of friends that would be like, are you free? And it's like, yes, but I'm also still not coming, like, because I have laundry and I want to maybe just see my PJs today. Like, I don't want to feel like I'm overscheduled because I know for me, that can be really hard on my mental health. It can just feel, when you're like looking at your calendar and you're like, I'm going to get to sleep in 3 weeks. Like, I don't know if you've ever been there, but like that happens more times than I'd like to admit. And so talking about renegotiating relationships, I think it's really hard, but it is something that you kind of often need to think about and reevaluate. I was listening to, I want to say it was Simon Sinek, who had shared something similarly or talking about relationships. And he's like, we are told that this friend that we grow up with, they're supposed to be our friend for our whole life. And we get hurt when like things change, when they have kids and we don't have kids yet, or they join some country club and we're not joining there. And so they build these new relationships. And he said, relationships are really about proximity oftentimes. Like I have friends that I'm still close with in California. And just last night, I got a text message. I woke up, I saw it this morning. One of my best friends is like, I really miss you. We need to schedule something on the calendar so that we can talk, because we leave voicemails. That's how we've been communicating. So she's like very clear, hey, I need some time. That's going to happen. Right. But I've had some friends that just maybe feel like it's a blow off. Like I'm not making enough time for them. In reality, we are in different stages of life. And that's not a bad thing. That's just where it is. Sometimes moving 20 minutes away is enough to be like, oh man, this is a long distance relationship. I can't, I can't commit to this. I'm not ready for it. And that doesn't mean that in another few years, you might have an intersection point again and be able to rebuild it. But I think creating some grace for each other in that is really helpful. Just letting people know, hey, this isn't about you. This is stage of life I'm in right now. And it's just, these are the things I can really manage for myself. And just being clear that it's not about them, that you care about them, you adore them, you love spending time with them, but it's just not in the cards as much as you would like. And I think that sometimes we don't want to have those vulnerable conversations, and then we overcomplicate it and make it more difficult for ourselves down the road because feelings get hurt.
Yeah, we don't really give ourselves permission up front to like make hard decisions like that. And yeah, I was just saying to my mom on Sunday and one of my siblings, I was like, I wish there was more conversation, examples of adult relationships ending not dramatically, like I was like, because I feel like sometimes a relationship like is complete, right? Your like stage of life has changed, your location has changed. And I was like, I could not think of a single show I had ever watched, movie I had ever seen where an adult relationship just naturally ended and transitioned. And I'm like, why is this so hard for us to imagine or allow? Or because I feel like, especially for women, like it creates just so much additional pressure that then can't be compartmentalized and seeps into all the areas of our lives.
Absolutely. And as much as I'm saying this, if one of my great friends all of a sudden became more and more distant, I would think it was all about me. Like, it's so easy to preach it, but if you're on the other side of that and they're just not communicating whatever it is so easy for me to say, what did I do? In fact, I have a very dear friend that moved to Ohio, and we had gone up and visited. And then about a year and a half ago, like the communication just kind of dropped off. And I sent a few text messages and they went unresponded. And then I called and I didn't get a call back. And I immediately was like, oh my gosh, did I offend them? Did I post something? Did I say something? Did I miss a birthday? Did I do something that really hurt them? And then finally I kind of sent a message like, I love you and I don't know what happened and I miss you and I don't know what's going on, but like, just know that I'm here if you ever want to talk. And she was like, oh my God, I'm a terrible friend. And she just responded with like, I've had health issues. I've had this, I've had that. I don't want to talk on the phone all the time. It's like all of these things. But she just booked a trip and she's coming to stay with us for 3 days in a couple weeks. And I'm so grateful that I just took that extra step to say, like, I'm feeling a certain way. Like, I love you. I hope everything's okay. And just showed that sign of vulnerability instead of like what the stories we tell ourselves. And it's like, I don't know what happened to that person. Yeah, they just ignored me. And I could have been bitter and I could have had a resent that grew, but it doesn't serve me. It wasn't fair to her. Right. But it is a practice, I think. And you're right. Like, I immediately think about Girls, which is like, that HBO show. And like that friendship, when that blew up, it's like there was cheating and this and that, and it was like hostile. And it isn't really ever, and it's not as fun. The entertainment value isn't as fun, right? But you're right. As people, we're living it and we don't see it. I don't think it's modeled for us as clearly.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I had an almost identical experience to the one you were just describing with somebody that I love, that I was reaching out to and not hearing back from, and thought maybe I had like harmed her in some way or like had done something that really hurt her. And I sent a message like checking in, kind of, hey, did I do something wrong? Like, I want to make it right. I want to hold myself accountable if I did something that hurt you, and didn't hear back. And a few months went by and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try one more time. And I'm going to be really clear that I want to take accountability. I just don't know, I'm neurodivergent. So I think there's always a part of me that's like, I missed something or I misread a cue and I want to figure out what it was to make it right or something like that. And so I like sent this long voice memo, and she responded like, oh my God, I'm the worst friend. Oh, but she had been going through her own stuff, both of her parents, like hospitalized parents, just like so many things. And then she was so worried that I would be angry at her. And I was like, no, I just wanted to. But then we got to have a really vulnerable conversation on both sides around just like, I don't know, restating like the safety in our relationship, but also the need for communication, like style and cadence to change.
Semi
And
regularly.
yeah, and to have grace for each other, right?
Yeah.
And to have grace for ourselves, but also grace for each other. And I just feel like it was such a great example for me. And it sounds like for you too, of like, this can be done. And there are just so many different ways for things to like work.
I love that. And I love the key point that you said there that really makes it for me is that you had to kind of discuss the style and cadence. It's what do you need in this relationship, right? Do you need a friend that is checking in weekly? I might not be able to be that friend right now, right? I have like a small group of people that I can check in weekly with, right? But if you are okay with a call once a quarter. I have a friend that we do Zoom calls and we said, let's just set a Zoom call every other month and we'll just have it on their calendar in the evening. And if we have to bump it, we have to, but it's there. And we know it's like when we're planning dinners and stuff, we can pick alternative night. And because that friendship was meaningful to both of us. And we had a conversation about it. We're like, what? Because you don't live here anymore, we're missing out on so much goodness that this friendship brought to both of us just to be an ear for one another. So, yeah, having those kind of, hey, what do you expect out of this relationship? I think that's really key. We don't do it enough.
No. And give ourselves permission to like renegotiate or exactly to say, like, hey, I might not be that person right now that you need. And I just want to be honest about that so that I don't hurt you down the line. And you invest in relationships where maybe the person can be, as present as you're needing right now. I feel like COVID also really taught me a lot about that. I read a meme or something recently that was like being 40 today is wild because you have some friends whose kids are going to college and you have some friends who are having babies, right? And that is like exactly how I feel. And sometimes it can be so hard because you're just like, yes, we both have kids, but we're just dealing with very different things.
Yeah. I'm paying daycare tuition. You're paying.
Yes. Or just like, I remember when voice memos started on the iPhone before it was transcribed. And my friends with older kids or no kids would just go bananas with those. And I was like, every time I play a voice memo, my kids start screaming to be louder than it. If I put in AirPods, they pull them out of my ears. Like I was just like, this modality of communication does not work for me. I cannot do it. And I think we don't, like I just had somebody say to me yesterday, like I always felt like I was compassionate to moms. And now this woman is a mom. And she was like, and I feel like there are all these ways I didn't give grace that I'm feeling like kind of guilty about now. And I'm curious, like what you think about that, because it is so hard. I feel like that's happened to me it happened around my wedding with people kind of behaving ridiculously. And then later when they were getting married, realizing that they behaved ridiculously. That happened to me, actually. I behaved ridiculously at a friend's wedding. And it wasn't until I got married that I was like, I should have never asked to bring that person. What was wrong with me?
What was wrong with me? 100%. And you're like, no kids. And they're like, but can I bring my kid? And you're like, no, that's definitely not. Like, why would I?
Yeah.
I mean, 100%. And it's like, key example, it's like birthday parties, but I have 2 kids. How can I bring one kid to a birthday party? My other kid's like, I can't go to the birthday party. It's like, listen, if one kid's going to the birthday party, you don't have to give a birthday bag to both kids, but like this other kid's coming. You know what I mean? But also when you throw your own birthday party, you're like, you can't leave this kid without a birthday bag. You're buying extra birthday bags now, which also, can we just get rid of birthday bags? Like,
totally. I have.
This is my policy. Like, it's all junk. It's all plastic. What are we doing? No one wants it. I don't want to step on one more like ink pad, you know?
Oh my God. Or plastic airplane or thank you.
None of it. Thank you. I don't even know what the question was at this point. Mom brain. What were we even talking about?
I mean, I feel like that piece around like showing empathy to people even before we haven't had their experience. Like, how do we get ourselves to be better at that?
I think that we may not always be able to until we've had the experience, because I believe that common memory is where empathy comes into play. If we don't have common memories, then we can't really come from a place of empathy. So That's why storytelling is so important for us at 6 Degrees, to talk about lived experiences and to share them in a really authentic way, centering the peoples whose stories they are, because then you can kind of peer in to that place and begin building a memory for yourself to build empathy. I have a dear friend who also was a client. I have coached people over the years on getting TEDx talks, right? And I just work with Steph, and Steph's an executive coach and really brilliant. And whereas a lot of my work is around creating connection, right, in communities and with each other, and what can we do to be really intentional about showing up for people in our everyday actions. A lot of her work is around kind of taking ownership over who's at the head of your table, right? Like, so when you're making a decision, like, am I making this out of jealousy, out of fear, or am I happy and content? Am I doing this with the right person at the head of my table? And she's also been working on this stuff around taking a turn. So, in accountability, because we haven't had those experiences, sometimes instead of going to the, oh my gosh, I did something wrong, what it's thinking very clearly, like, maybe I did. Maybe I didn't put a lot of grace towards this when I acted a fool at this person's wedding, or invited someone to the dinner party when it was supposed to be kind of an intimate event, or just made it a little bit more uncomfortable, or played something that I shouldn't have played with, around someone's kid. Like, fill in the blank of what you may not think is that big of a deal. But being able then to say, hey, like, especially if someone's stonewalling you, I don't know if this is it, but I really want to say that if this offended you in some type of way, I really apologize for that. And this relationship is important to me. And we may not always see eye to eye in many things, but the last thing I want to do is to make your life more difficult in some type of way, right? Like, I care about you, and it doesn't matter that we might see things differently, or be at different stages in our life. And when you're able to do that, I think forgiveness flows, and it can really create like those bridges that we need to mend relationships and to keep moving forward. But it's that key thing about having to take accountability, because often we don't know until it's slammed us right in the face. And then it's, oof, I really put my foot in it. And it's uncomfortable having to take ownership, but how much better you will feel, and how much more valued that person that you actually care about will feel if you just can say those words, I'm sorry, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're simple, but they're meaningful, especially if you're connecting it to that direct action that may have been mistaken, but still needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I love that. I'm thinking about some of the recent apologies I made, like my daughter going over to somebody's house and asking, okay, Google to play Dua Lipa, that then had a lot of inappropriate words in it. And I mean, there are just so many things. Like, you're running through the list. I'm like,
That's
I need to apologize
amazing.
for that. And I need to apologize for that. And I love what you said about, like, sometimes we can't maybe expect ourselves or expect others to have empathy for an experience that is so foreign to them, right? That they can't really relate to in any way. And maybe whether we decide to or not, and it's part of why I wanted to have this conversation with you here publicly, is like, for people to hear more stories of, I was talking to a friend recently and feeling like I don't have a lot of friends with who are in big careers with young kids, like at this stage of life. And so I don't have a lot of stories or a lot of people to shame spiral with who will actually not
We'll start a group. We'll start a
judge
thread.
me. Yes, right? Like, because sometimes the choices feel impossible. Like, it feels
Yeah.
like there's
Yeah.
no way I'm getting out of this choice, even if I'm conscious about it, even if I'm prioritizing, even if I'm putting the right, I love what you said, the right thing at the head of the table. Like, I think a lot about like conscious based values versus fear based values, and the fact that we all might have 10 values, but sometimes those values are in conflict with each other. And we have to make a decision about which value we're prioritizing in that moment.
And
And
own it.
own it. And it doesn't mean that the value we sacrifice, it doesn't feel good. But sometimes in those impossible moments, I find myself feeling really isolated, because I feel like anyone I might talk to about it, like when I go to a conference, they're like, oh, why are you late? And then when I come back for a conference in my mom's, it's like, oh, how could you go? And it's like, oh man, just it's so hard sometimes.
Yeah, my 3-year-old has been having a really difficult time as I've been traveling. I traveled every week for 4 weeks, a day or 2, but it's a lot. And so she started kind of regressing, wetting herself, having this really just hard time. Mommy, don't go. I don't, and this fear that maybe I'm not going to come back. And that's really difficult because you're like, how do you meet them where they are? And I have things that we do. We send them little letters when I'm leaving, so they have something to open. We FaceTime every single day. We really try to stay connected in that way. And I'm grateful that we have like technology as a tool to do that. They know that they always get a gift when they come home, when I come home, like little things that they can look forward to, but nothing replaces time.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I've tried to do is say, hey, then if I'm traveling, then there's going to be a couple days that week that I'm cutting it at 3. And I'll try to pick up the girls early now that the weather's nice and like take them to the pool. So I think that what we need to be more conscious of is when you're taking from someone's bucket, as you will, and in this case, when you have kids, sometimes not showing up is taking from their bucket, right? So being intentional about how do we pour back into them that attention and love that they're craving, that one-on-one time, that I'm going to leave my phone and not take it to the pool so that I don't have a distraction, so that I do get in and swim with them and play with them and all of that. And saying like, that's what I'm going to do. And so I've been really clear on those boundaries. And Sunday, I've been really clear on like that as a day that I'm with my family. I don't really like to do even anything with like extended family. It's just like, just an important day. We get such few hours, I think, sometimes with our kids, especially at these ages. And so, yeah, when I have to work really, really hard, that whole work hard, play hard, well, that play hard is like, I'm playing hard with my kids. I'm going to let them pick what they want to do one day, even if it's 90 degrees and they want to go to the park. And I'm just going to be like, all right, we're just going to put on some bucket hats, lather on that sunscreen and bug spray. Ugh. They want to do it. And so figuring out how someone else is served, I think is really helpful in maintaining those relationships. And as hard as it can be sometimes, it does fill your bucket as well, right? Like bringing joy and seeing someone feel really valued and appreciated by you. That's a cycle that just pours in and pours out. And that's really what we need more of.
I love that. And I have some like similar, I mean, I FaceTime a lot with them when I'm gone. I feel like we finally have Isla, the 19-month-old. We went through a phase where FaceTime would just ruin. Oh, thank you. Emmy named her after her gymnastics teacher.
I love it. I love it.
But we were in a phase where FaceTime would just ruin it for Ryan. And, it would make everything a lot worse. We finally have gotten to the stage where she likes it and we can connect while I'm gone. And Emmy, my oldest, when I come home, she goes, what was in the gift hall? Which is like the exhibit hall where she's like, what did the gift hall have this time?
Yeah.
Like,
it's so funny. Like my husband, when he goes to tech conferences, because he's in that world, he always brings back the little stuffed animal with, the company logo and stuff.
Yes,
and I'm like, you don't ever have to buy anything. You're just grabbing the swag. You know what I mean? You're like,
I know, but it's just as bad as the goodie bags. So it's like, that's like another reason why we have so much crap.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's everywhere.
But I love thinking about those little things and just like the presence. Like, I think that's been a big thing with my team and clients and stuff like that, is like, when I am with you, I am like fully present with you, unless, if my kid is sick, they might be there, or there are other things that are going to change. But then when I'm not with you and I'm home, like on my calendar, there are these big blocks of like family time, and I will not text you back. I will not because I am with them and I might not have my phone with me and I might have just completely turned it off. And so I love that. And I have to put it on my calendar. And that's like one of the ways that I feel like I have to bring like work and family together, because if I don't, the work stuff is on the calendar and the family stuff isn't. And it's like just so much more likely to eat all of those like little moments and opportunities to reconnect.
I know, it's funny because even me, my husband, at times when we've been like working on our relationship, it's like tonight we're connecting, like, you know what I mean? Like tonight we're going to have like a date night, like calendaring. And you're like, oh, that's not sexy. That's not, you won't do that, but it's like practical.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because when you put it on your calendar, it's important to you, right?
Yes.
And you're not going to make an excuse for it. So it's the mindset, like switch how we think about it and say, what's on your calendar is what you prioritize. What's on your
Yes.
calendar is what you know is happening. And you're not going to, and if you have to shift it around, you're gonna have to really think about it, right? You don't just easily push things. And so, yeah, how we have to think about it and adjust. That reminds me of that Cali to DC transition. Just, it's how we make our way. And it's how you're talking about Emmy. I have a 5-year-old, and I just did a TED talk last year, and TEDx talk, I should say. And she'll walk around the house and she'll be talking to herself. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, I'm practicing my TED talk. And so I always focus on those moments too. Like, they're seeing mommy do some pretty cool things, and they now believe that they can do those same things, and they can. And that's pretty powerful. I had a wonderful, wonderful mom, and she's no longer with us, but she did so many incredible things, but she didn't really have belief in herself fully. She knew she was good at some things, but she didn't believe in herself the way that I believed in her. Right. And that always made me sad. And so for my girls to see their mom be confident, also struggle sometimes and have to be vulnerable and have to say, I'm sorry. All of those things are important experiences for the young people in our life to see. And I'm actually grateful to be a 40-year-old mom with little ones, because I didn't know all of this stuff in my 20s or even my early 30s. And I know I'm a better parent at this stage in my life, even if it's more hectic. And so every day is a learning, but I invite my kids in on that journey so they know that, like, I'm learning too. Mommy doesn't know everything. And we're going to make mistakes together, and we're going to try to move forward together as a family as well.
I love that so much. And there's so much wisdom in there. I feel like I have really been working hard to, when I make a mistake and I'm having a hard time with it, saying that to my kid, yeah, mommy messed up and I need to make it right. And here's what I did. And here's what I'm trying to do. But now, unfortunately, anytime I don't know the answer to something, she says, well, just ask daddy. He knows everything. And I'm like, okay, now you need to start publicly messing up, please. Thank you.
No, thank you. Yeah, your daddy just knows everything. That's hilarious.
She'll say, if anytime I'm like, I don't know, she's like, okay, well, ask okay Google or daddy.
That's hilarious. Daddy knows everything. That's funny.
But
I mean,
I
that's like
love
the things that pick up kids say, like what
I
they
know.
pick up on in the house. That's
I
it's
know.
gold.
But you're right that they're seeing all those moments, not just the ones where we're telling them like how cool it is that we get to do. I brought Emmy to a keynote I did last year, and we walked in and there were posters of me, and I was like, how does it feel like seeing your mom on and she goes, I do not care about it. But I was like, she was like so unimpressed. She's like, take me to the gift hall. But I was like, I know that this matters. I know it matters in what she believes is possible for her,
Yeah.
whatever she wants to be. And it doesn't have to be anything like what I do, but just that she sees a world of opportunity available to her. And so I'm so grateful for like leaders like you who are showing their way of navigating the complexity of what it means to be in a really meaningful world-changing role, and also in a world-changing role of raising amazing kids. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mallory. Same to you. I think it's important to have these conversations, and I'm really glad that you reached out and wanted to explore this topic, because we don't talk enough, I think, about being moms and parents in general and caretakers. And it's such a critical role. And we are raising the next generation of change makers, hopefully. And so I think that raising kids is often like healing parts of yourself as well. They're a really good mirror to the things that are still triggering to us, or the things that we sometimes push really far and down, right? And so there's so much growth to be had, and it makes me a better leader for sure. And I love that you took your daughter to one of your keynotes. That's really special. Abby always wants to travel with me, but I mean, she's pretty wild. I mean, Abby is, she's my wild child. So we're going to see. We're going to get her maybe to like 6.5, and we're going to test the water. But I'm looking forward to times when I can like bring her with me and just see up close what I'm doing, instead of this idea of like, mommy's going away. I would love for her to see like, what is mommy doing when she goes away? And I think that's a nice way to kind of bridge it. for them.
And if you have something in the Bay Area, I should say this, what allowed me to do that the first time, now I've done it twice, but the first time was another mom, female leader, saying, I will come to the event with my older kids who will sit with her in the front row while you speak. Because it was like the day before she started kindergarten. I was like, I don't want to leave. It's right before this big transition. She was like, how about this? I'll bring my kids too, and they'll be together. So just another kind of like testament to like what we can do for each other. So if you come to the Bay with Abby, Emmy and I will come and we will sit with her so that she can see you and you can have that first experience. And I'd love to just see more of that type of community show up for all of us trying to navigate this life.
That means a lot. Thank you. Yeah, community, a village is absolutely everything. It cannot be understated. We can't do this work alone. And so it's nice to know that you had someone for you in that way as well. We need to show up for each other. I think that's another way to fill each other's cup for sure. And get a little more longevity out of it. That's for sure.
Yes. Yes. Okay. I could talk to you forever. Yeah. Thank you so much for having this conversation and joining me today. I'm so grateful.
I appreciate you. It's been a real pleasure and an honor, and I'm looking forward to more conversations with you in the future. So thanks for having me.
Same here.